Welcome back to Eyes Wide, the podcast, where we discuss this beautiful intersection of business and life and everything in between. I'm your host, Craig Palmer, and today we've got a really special episode. We have an individual here that I met actually on LinkedIn, and is someone that when I saw the post he was doing, I instantly felt drawn to him and wanted to have a connection, and someone that I wanted to make sure that I was going to be involved and following along in his journey. Cellan Lehman comes to us today with 25 years of sales and marketing experience. In those 25 years, 12 of those years are spent in the medical device world in the neuro and orthopedic specialties. He is a father of two. He is a transformational visionary. He is owner and founder of Mindset Collective. He is a pattern breaker and a truth teller. Without further ado, so happy to welcome Cellan Lehman to the podcast.
Craig, thank you, sir. It's great to be here.
I'm real excited to make this happen. Obviously, since we first met, I've been talking about getting you on a podcast. I really jived with a lot of the things that you were saying, and in a lot of our things, our mindsets really line up. And there's so many interesting things that you're doing that I thought that my listeners and any of the potential followers of this podcast could really benefit from.
Absolutely. And we didn't plan the black shirt, so we're matching as well. So we're absolutely aligned.
Well, secrets, black, very slimming. So it always gives you a leg up.
It is, yes.
So Kellen, tell us a little bit about yourself.
That was an amazing intro. I really appreciate that. 25 years in sales, primarily business development, some marketing, advertising, and there's the last 12 years in medical device and the med tech world, supporting neuro and orthopedic spine surgeons. And I've spent the last year and a half moving over into the transformational mindset coaching space. It's funny. Through all those years in sales, one of the main things that stood out to me was this missed opportunity around how leaders were showing up to their teams and for themselves. And that missed opportunity was really about mindset, mental health, how we show up and how we operate from an identity level, how we treat each other. And you're bombarded with sales techniques, the newest, the greatest features, benefits. As a rep, you are flooded with product knowledge. You can spend a whole weekend or a whole week learning about products, features, benefits, persuasive selling, urgency selling, all the old school stuff that's needed and that's helpful. But if you send a rep home with all that knowledge and they don't have their mind right, you've wasted an opportunity. And I know that from living that out. I noticed there were times where I was productive, I was making sales, I was doing the thing. And then there were times where I was inconsistent and I really couldn't put my finger on it. And that throughout the years led me to where I am now. Some of my favorite things in med device, in the industry, and in my 12 years were the education parts. We're educating, teaching, mentoring, coaching. I had a lot of opportunities to coach reps, a lot of opportunities to coach surgeons. And that's where I got a lot of joy, was out of that work. And so that's led me here.
So you bring up two big terms, right? Transformation and mindset. Two very hot terms. They've probably been hot terms for quite a while, but definitely today. So I'm in the private equity space, and it's something that gets, I don't want to say thrown around, but definitely discussed on a regular basis, transformation and mindset. And it's two very important things. So explain to me and the listeners how that applies to 2025. And we talked about you being a visionary in this space. So talk to me about how specifically, if we want to talk about sales and even more specifically medical device sales, I think would I be right in saying that's your niche, your organization's niche right now?
It is.
Or is it expansive?
It is.
Okay.
You know what? I work with people outside of the industry as well, and so
Mhm.
it is expansive. And really, this work is for anybody and everybody. And but it's my story is as a sales rep, and so I've walked in their shoes. I know the challenges that they go through. I was there. I've lived it. And so really the first group that I wanted to support were my peers and my colleagues.
Mhm. You've lived this life as a medical device sales rep. You were in their shoes. You've been in the OR. You've done that job. What was it? At what point did you say, I can do this job and I can do it well, and it is an amazing career. It's a great opportunity. I can do this for the rest of my career. But what was it that jumped out and grabbed hold of you and just said that I can offer more. I can take what's inside of me and the learnings that I've developed over the years and bring that to others to help them in their journeys.
I think it was the realization that I couldn't keep on doing it, that I couldn't keep on doing it the way that I was doing it. It wasn't sustainable to me.
And tell me about
And
that.
the industry, as are a lot of industries in sales, especially, are cutthroat. It's all bottom line. It's all about revenues, numbers, growths, next month's quota, and that quota getting bigger and bigger. And it really there's no focus or very little focus on the people that are helping to support those numbers. And there are groups, and I don't want to say a blanket statement that there aren't leaders out there that are focusing on this and that care about their employees and the other leaders in their company. But I kept finding myself over and over burnout, overwhelmed, trying to figure out how to balance life, how to stay happy, how to stay joyful, how to stay present for my kids. And I didn't have the tools that I have now. And so that's where I am now is I want to share those with everybody. It would have made a world of difference if I knew what I know now, back when I
I bet.
started as a young rep.
Were you on your way to burnout?
Well, I burn out. I did.
You hit it. Like you were one of those individuals that were running hard and you burnt out.
I think it was a mixture of things, right? I think everybody's story is different. And for me, family life got really tough. We had two young kids. Burnout for me was also a part of a separation and a divorce. It was overwhelm in a number of different areas. And so burnout for me wasn't just about the demands at work. It was really uh, it was really about how I was approaching life in general. So this can be applied to work, how I'm showing up at work, and also your relationships, your life in general. And so transformation, back to your that's a pretty tall order, right? We're transformation around mindset. And it just brings up my thought, or what occurred to me is talking about identity. And a lot of we met through LinkedIn, and you'll hear me talk about identity and our internal processes, our internal self. And that can sound a little bit like, what is he talking about? What is a person's identity? And a lot of people, we think about it as just how we think about ourselves,
Right.
but it's often deeper than that. It's identity is an unconscious set of beliefs and stories and self concepts that shape every thought, decision, and behavior. They're the I am statements that run in the background of our minds all the time, and they govern what we feel is possible, what we feel is safe, and what actions we will or won't take. And so, in neuroscience terms, I love to blend in neuroscience, philosophy, ancient wisdoms into the work that I do. But its identity is filtered directly by the RAS, which is the reticular activating system. And so drives consistency and behavior, and regulates your emotional set points. So,
So you're not just
yeah,
talking fluff here. You're talking that real science built into some of this transformative mindset.
absolutely. Absolutely. And without getting too much into the weeds on that, I'll throw this out there and just establish that beliefs dictate our destiny. And so this is another thing that's thrown out there quite a bit, but in the methodology, the community I'm in, and from my mentor, and I've got to mention David Bear as a big mentor and influence on me. He's made this 2 millimeter distinction that beliefs are actually decisions that we make about our lives. And so, day in and day out, whether they're conscious or not, we have this set of beliefs that run the show. They make matter matter, and what we say matterifies in our life. And so, on a day to day basis, we think that we're not good enough, and we go to write an email to go do outreach, and we sit down and we think that we're not good enough, or that we may not show up well, or that it may not get received that well. That that creates an emotion, and that emotion then drives an action, and a lot of times that action will be inaction. And so you may end up, instead of sitting down and writing that email, you may go to Starbucks for the third time in a day. And you may sit at your window and stare off anxiously out the window, and not get the email done because you're worried that you're not good enough. You're not good enough to write the email. Somebody's not going to be responsive to it. And so it's these 5 primary drivers: what we believe, what we think, we feel. What we feel determines actions that we produce in our life, and those produce outcomes. And those outcomes are always going to back up these beliefs time and time again, just to rebuild the evidence of why we're not good enough, or money's hard to make, or surgeons aren't going to be receptive to our ideas.
Well, man, dude, I love this. I mean, we jumped right in and we got heavy and deep fast. There is no messing around here, no foreplay whatsoever. So, way to
I'm
just
sorry.
get it.
I like to move fast sometimes.
No,
Yeah.
that's great. So you touched on so many things, and my gosh, I had ideas of what I wanted to ask of you and the direction I want this conversation to go, and you just tapped into so many different things. This idea of belief dictating your life, dictating behavior, right? It was that you said it. You said it so beautifully. Could you just say it again?
Beliefs dictate your destiny, and
So you made it even
they
more
dictate
eloquent.
your destiny.
So beliefs dictate your destiny. Anyone that challenges this, I don't know if you're a religious person. It sounds like you likely are, but with regard to religion, so I went to this church on Sunday, and it is a on fire type church. Preacher is he believes, and you can't be in that room, and you can't walk out of that room going through some sort of an experience. And the reason why you go through that type of experience is because you can feel someone's belief. It seeps into you. When someone fully believes in something, it grabs hold of you, it knocks you in the face. It is strong. And you can see how humans grasp to belief so strongly, so powerfully, and it can dictate your destiny so beautifully. I used to do a part of my sales training. It was when launching a new product. Everyone's learning it for the first time. You were in a very detailed specialty. You were in orthopedic and neurosurgical. So there's a lot of complicated terms. I don't know how detailed the disease states were. Orthopedics tends to be a little bit more surface, but I'm sure there's a lot of details involved. We were dealing in the heart failure space, and a lot of people were learning a lot of these terms and whatnot for the first time. And then not only were they expected to learn these terms, but then they had to go out and convey interest and passion and enthusiasm to the doctors, the surgeons. And it's funny because as you learn these items, this information, you go out and you start to talk to other people, it's just conveying bullet points and factoids. And I talk about that over and over and over again. That doesn't really change anyone's imagination, doesn't really shape any hearts and minds, doesn't affect changes in behavior. It's just bullet points and factoids, right? And so I would have to make it like certain people where it just never really hit home, this idea of conveying your passion, enthusiasm. I had to just scrap the whole idea of talking about the disease state and heart failure and just start talking about something that they were passionate in, something that they already believed in. And Kellen, if you could have seen this, I had two people in one setting. I had to stop doing this. I had two people break down in tears, starting to talk about things that they believed in and that were powerful to them and they were passionate about, and trying to convince me to want to do it as well or to love it as well. And these were two manly men, and they both broke down in tears. And I remember just walking away from that session. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. It's powerful, and they're getting a really good lesson, but this isn't the venue for that. But here we are having this conversation with you, and you are doing these, I would imagine you're doing these, are you doing retreats, or are you doing these sessions, these breakout sessions where people can feel like they're in a safe space and really start to really learn and go through some of these mindset transformations? So they're not in front of peers, but they're actually doing this work away from their professional
Yeah.
situations?
Yeah. Great question. And most of what I do is one-on-one coaching and group coaching. There are retreats, there are experiences, we have a lot of stuff in planned. There are, this is bigger than just a coaching business and a coaching vision. And I
Yeah,
share
because
this
what I'm
with
hearing
a lot of
as
people in
you've
my,
been talking
yeah,
about it, this isn't just coaching, is it? You're taking people through experiences, and you have to go
yeah.
through an experience to really have some kind of a transformation inside of you.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be this deep, heavy, emotional. And I want to say one thing because I love what you just shared. I believe strongly that vulnerability is a strength multiplier. And so, however that shows up, what you did, tapping into and getting emotion out of your reps, your team, is beautiful. And what that does, it expands that person in that moment. I'm sure it expanded you in some way. And maybe it felt heavy and it was difficult to do. And maybe you thought to yourself, this maybe wasn't the right setting for it. But I guarantee you that it was expansive, it was a growing opportunity. Another big belief of mine is that emotional intelligence is not the next frontier, it's the now frontier of leadership. So emotional intelligence is the now frontier of leadership. If you
Yeah,
aren't
go on. I
talking
want to hear
about
more
this
about
stuff,
this.
if you aren't talking about this, if you aren't doing the deep work, if you aren't finding out more about you, about what drives you, your deep passions, the things that limit you, your limiting beliefs, the things that keep you small, well, one, if you're an organization, if you're a sales leader, you're missing the boat. You're missing an opportunity. And as an individual, it's just an opportunity to find what you're looking for, what we're all looking for, this greater, deeper meaning in life. This is where it's at, is by doing this work. It's beautiful. It can be challenging at times, but I'll tell you what is more challenging is inaction, is going through life thinking that life feels like Groundhog Day, thinking that you have to sacrifice, and thinking that you have to give up joy and not show up and be your true, authentic self, that you have to be something different. I found for myself that everything that I want, my vision, all of my dreams are on the other side of that, are on the other side of me playing small, of the other side of me feeling like I have to fit in and show up a certain way. And so vulnerability is a huge, it's a game changer. And this doesn't mean you have to go to a retreat and box other men and jump around and sing kumbaya, and all that stuff is, I think, beautiful and can be really powerful. But I'm also really aware and cognizant of the fact that that can be scary to people.
Mhm.
And so this work doesn't have to entail that. It doesn't have to be things that you're seeing on social media, like drum circles and dancing around half naked with burning sage.
Not
Although
that
I
there's
think
hey, Kellen, not that
ritual,
there's anything wrong with that.
well, and I listen, I'm game for that stuff. I'll jump in and do that stuff all day. I think being uncomfortable, pushing ourselves. I love ritual. It's a thing that we bring up a lot, is the beauty of ritual. how powerful that can be. And so I'm not downplaying that stuff at all. I'm also aware of my peers and colleagues. And I don't want this to be something, I want this to be accessible and to feel comfortable in a way,
Mhm.
comfortable and getting uncomfortable. And so it has to be accessible and feel good to people. But everything that we want, our dreams, our relationships, the awards, an abundance of money, all abundance is on the other side of of this playing small and living according to everybody else's plans. It's time for people to step up and forge their own path. And
That's big.
this is the tools. These are the methodology that we coach on and teach can do that. It gives you the access to have that.
Mention these different rituals, and as I have a few trips around the sun, and I do more self-reflecting myself, and I get involved in, I'm big on wanting to do the hard things, doing the things that not everyone wants to do, forcing myself to do things that I don't want to do. And I think this idea of rituals, I think the more I'm getting experience with different quote unquote rituals, I'm starting to realize it's not the ritual per se. It's the fact that you're giving yourself to something that is allowing your, I don't want to use the term vibrations because I think that starts to send me down a different path. But when you open yourself up to allowing an experience to happen, and typically that's what these rituals are that you're doing. It's providing focus on something that's getting you out of your own head and allowing your mind to be a little bit more expansive. And so that's why there's so many of these rituals that exist, and sometimes they get a little bit of a hokey feel to them. You mentioned spinning the plates and the vibrations and all this other stuff, and people love that stuff, but I think it's
Yeah.
more about going through some sort of an experience. By going through these experiences, whether it's some kind, like I just had a buddy do I think he actually did an ayahuasca thing, and he was trying to get me to go to that. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm fully ready for that yet. I'm not saying no, never, but right
Yeah.
now, no, I'm not. I'm gonna pass for right now. But he went and did it, and I don't know if it was that specific thing, if it was the ayahuasca or it was whatever that effect that had on him, or it was more just having his mind open. He's going through a lot of shit right now. And to have the focus on this and allow his mind to be expansive and have his eyes open and his heart open allowed him to see things a lot more clearly. And by through that clarity, he's been able to solve some issues, solve some problems. So could it be the ayahuasca? Could it be the plate spinning? Could it be the dancing on fire, walking through fire? Who knows? But it's whatever is going to allow you to unlock these different things inside of you that allow you, that give you the opportunity to be transformative. And that's what I'm starting to learn. The more people I talk to, the more experiences that I personally get to have.
I think it's a combination combination of all those things you mentioned. One thing that's common and consistent through those is intention, attention, with ritual meaning, giving something meaning and creating and seeing the wonder in it. Not to go down a rabbit hole, but we're stardust like flying through space right now. We are there. We lose sight of how magnificent and the wonder and the magic that is around us. Regardless of whoever your higher power is, your God of your own understanding, we are in this amazing experience together. And ritual can be lighting a candle at the dinner table with your kids and having gratitude. It's about honing in on that one moment that gives you goosebumps with your kids and shares this shared experience and brings attention and intention to it. A lot of us get caught up in rituals that are drinking a cold beer after mowing the lawn or drinking five or a six pack. We have rituals of playing golf and drinking heavily while we play golf. We have rituals of overeating, or we have rituals. We have all of these unhealthy rituals, things that we go to in order to, what I would say is to cover up or to soothe or numb ourselves out from the reality that we're in,
It's
which when,
escapism. A
yes,
lot of it's escapism versus actually healing.
for sure.
And that's something that I think that's one of those things that you're offering rather than just an opportunity to escape, an opportunity to heal and get whole.
Either escapism or it could be if you're drinking a beer after mowing the lawn, we don't have to go as far as escapism, but it's also about building habits that are in alignment with your greatest dreams and vision. You talked about having clarity, but it's about keeping that clarity, that consistently showing up and doing the things, making the decisions, having the habits that get you to that place that you want to go. And not just having a mundane everyday life, but being able, when it's all said and done, to look back and be supremely proud of the life that you've lived, that you've created, the relationships, the connections, the family you've grown. And in order to do that, you gotta step up. You gotta step up. You gotta do the work. And 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 so it's my mission, it's my vision is to share this with as many people as I possibly can. It's it's really simple if you look at it. These are things that I believe should be taught in schools
Mhm.
to young kids. This is we have this amazing technology in our brains and in our hearts. And we don't get any user manual around it. We don't get taught how to really use it. And we study and go to school to learn all these other technologies. The most advanced technology is right here. It's right here. And so that's what this work is it's, hey, this is how it works. Here's some adjustments you can make. Here's some practices, here's some rituals, here's some things you can do to really understand how it works and get out of your own way.
So as you're saying all these beautiful things, they're all making a ton of sense to me, and I love. Thank you so much for sharing all these beautiful things. One of the things that I stress in my conversations, or if I go as far to call it teachings or what I'm trying to convey, it's this idea of you mentioned you got to do the work or doing things, taking action. And people get so caught up in making the right decision versus just making a decision. And this idea of accepting everything in your life, the good and the bad, I am a broken record on this. So you're going to hear it again and again and again. And you are such a walking, talking, breathing example of exactly what it is I'm trying to convey to others. You are here today because you likely did not have a good experience when you were a medical device rep. There are tons of people that are hoping to break into the medical device world, and they should. It is a great industry. It will open tons of doors. There's good money. It is challenging for all the reasons. It checks all the boxes. But if you would have been whole there and been successful and not had something negative happen to you or not had this other calling, this feeling of burnout, if you will, then you would not be where you are today. So you have to have the setbacks to create the comebacks, the negatives to move into the positives. And that's why I continue to tell people not to get so caught up in what is going to happen after I make this move, what happens next. You don't have to think that way. It's about following what you have in your heart and making sure that you're moving with intention. And so on one hand, I hate that you had to go through a negative experience. You had to experience burnout. No one likes to have to witness someone going through burnout, to have something negative happen in your life. You mentioned a divorce. That is brutal. I've had to witness so many people that worked for me go through divorces, and my heart would break for them over and over and over again because I know that part of the reason they were getting a divorce is because of how much dedication and intention they were putting into the job and the work initiative and getting that off the ground. And so that being a collateral damage someone's personal relationships, that's tough to handle. So you had to experience all these negatives, but out of that, you've created this whole other entire world, this whole other initiative that has now fully shaped your life. Not fully shaped your life, but it's set you along this path. And this path is ultimately opening doors for others, helping others to heal, helping others to transform. And so this is why you can't just get thrown when something negative happens to you. It's about what are you going to do with that negative experience that's going to shape the rest of your life. And so I love listening to what you've
Yeah.
created out of the negativity.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That was one of the first things I think on our first call together where we had alignment and were sharing experiences where that had occurred. And just hearing you talk about that, one thing is that medical device, my career in med device was had some of the proudest moments of my life. I loved being a med device rep. Absolutely loved it. The adrenaline going into the OR, a big complex spine case, knowing that you played a big role in that case going well, and then high-fiving the team afterwards were some of the proudest moments that I ever had. And so my experience in the industry is not all bad. There were amazing times, made friendships that have lasted and will last a lifetime. Had some really fun times, traveled a ton, and just had some amazing experiences. Watched a surgeon hold a heart in open heart surgery. Have seen some very complex spine surgeries that have changed patients' lives. And so, such a fulfilling, awesome career. And so for me, it wasn't that this didn't go well. It's that there was so much inconsistency in how it appeared to me when I was in it in the moment. There was challenges that it'll eat you up, spit you out. Prep on any given day, there's pressures from corporate headquarters and the executive team. And I think it's funny. Our friends and families think that we finish a case, we open up a tray, finish it by 10, and we're on the golf course by 11 or by the pool drinking a pina colada. And that's just not the case. There are some of those folks out there, and they know who they are listening to this right now. But for the majority of us, that's not how it is. And it's a tough industry. I was my own worst enemy. And I venture to say we all are. Our own minds, our own thinking are the things that get in the way of us. Like you said, you pointed out the contrasts in life, challenges, things going tough, things not going our way. We've all heard that challenges are ways for us to grow and to learn. But if you really get that, if you really get the mindset of that, and you dissect the limiting beliefs that appear on a day to day basis around challenges, it shouldn't be this way. Life isn't fair. The world's unsafe. When you can take those limiting beliefs, you notice them, you identify them, you can take them and you can, in its place, put in an empowered decision, your life changes. And so this is the work that we're doing. We're acting like a surgeon, like a scalpel. We're going in and we're taking out all of the things that are limiting our life, are limiting and small playing identity, and recreating that for ourselves.
What was that kind of switch? What was that switch in your mind and your heart where you said, you know what? I think it's time for me to do something different. I think there's a different calling for me. What was kind of inciting incident that changed things for you?
The thing that changed it all was going through a separation and a divorce, and really losing sight of who I was. A lot of our identity is shaped by our career and our family. It's the first thing. You're at a networking event or you're out to dinner with friends, and there's another men, especially, walk up, "Hey, oh, what do you do? What do you do for work? Tell me, do you have kids?" It's two of the
Mhm.
most common questions that you have. And for me, I was a medical device rep. I was proud. That's what I love to do, challenges and all. And I was a husband, and I had the 6-story dream house, Colorado. had my dream truck, living the life out just outside of Denver. And that all came crashing down. And it wasn't overnight, but it tore me up. It was the biggest
Yeah.
challenge of my life.
So let me ask you,
Yeah,
without going too deep into that, isn't
yeah.
there a part of you that at that time, knowing that you had collateral damage in your life, that negative things happen, you got divorced, isn't there a part of you that says, well, I've already lost these things in my life. I'm not going to go ahead and walk away from this job now because look what I traded it for. I want to see this through. How do you handle that kind of decision making?
It's a good question. I stuck around for in the industry for another couple years. And I think the answer is the divorce and the separation, the divorce, having to spend half time away from my kids. Those things put me in a dark place. And so I was still in the industry,
Mhm.
and talk about overwhelm. Showing up to the office. At that time, I was in a product management marketing role, and I was on a weekly basis needing to show up and present, train, do webinars, speak to new hires from anywhere from 30 to 200 people while I was broken, while I was hurting. And so I looked for help. I knew I needed something different. And that's when I really started digging into, and I've always been into personal development, and I kid
Mhm.
around. My parents are recovering hippies, and they quickly they I'm so grateful and blessed to I was meditating when I was young. I was meditating way before it was in, before it was uh, part of the norm. And so I had a really solid foundation around personal development. I had been to personal development retreats and seminars and read all the books, and but I needed to do a new deep dive this time. And that's when I came across this methodology from David Bear that changed my life.
Were
And
were
seriously,
you ever Kellen, were you
yeah,
ever teetering? Did it ever almost go real dark for you?
absolutely. Yeah, it did. And I've mentioned this in a few times, but there was about a 3-month period where it was during my role where I had to show up and be
Mhm.
on for
Yeah.
in my role. Not like there's a time when we're not in that that challenge.
That's different. Your spotlight's on you, everyone's
It's
relying on
different than
you,
a
you're
exactly. There's an autonomy to being a rep on the road, traveling. You can do your case, and then there's
you walk
an
up to the batter's
entrepreneurial
box, you have your at bat, and then you go back to the
a
dugout.
for sure. And so there was a different dynamic to this. And the divorce was fresh. Spending time with my daughter. I had the kids and I always have them, just a very present and always have been dad. And my kids are
Mhm.
my world to me. But holding my daughter as she goes to bed and her just wanting mom and dad together will break anybody down.
Mm.
And so there was a time where I had suicidal ideation, where for me it was this. I had never experienced anything like it, and I swore to myself I could never do it. But there was a
Mhm.
time where I dreamt about and thought about driving my truck into the garage and closing that door and going to sleep every day for 3 months. I remember it was like it
Holy
was
shit, man.
it
That's
was it was tough, and I realized that I would never do it. I had too much to live for. I would
Mhm.
never do that to my kids.
Mhm.
My family, super close with my parents, and it wasn't until later on down the road where it through some other mentors and people in the space where I learned some really great explanation around what I think is a shared experience for a lot of people. That time in our life where we question, what is this for?
Mm.
Why am I here? Can I keep going on with this pain that I'm feeling right now? And that we all have this moment, and it doesn't have to be death. What it is the death of an old identity, of an old way of being that no longer serves our current being or who we are supposed to be. And that can be really painful, this death of this old identity, this old self, this old way of showing up, this old set of habits, this
I
whole
mean,
old
this
way
is this
of
is the
treating
essence.
yourself.
This is the essence of baptism,
Yes.
right? What
Yeah. And
did,
exactly. And
yeah.
so it, it doesn't have to be the end of your life. It can be a beautiful thing. It can be a rebirth, right? It can be a rebirth. It can be the beginning of your new self. You can let that old side of you die away without taking your life. And
Mhm.
that was a huge lesson for me to learn. One is I carried, on top of feeling bad, I carried guilt and shame around having those
Even
feelings.
having those thoughts and
Even
ideas. Yeah,
having
for
them,
real.
I felt isolated than the fact that I couldn't share that with anybody because I didn't wanna scare people. I didn't wanna
Mhm.
scare my mom and my dad
That's
and
right.
my best friends and let them know, "Hey, I'm having these thoughts." It's a really uncomfortable thing to hold on to. There's shame, there's guilt. You don't wanna scare your close, friends and family. But that knowledge around what this is and a way to articulate it really opened things up for me and was beautiful. And I'm quoting a lot of stuff by Peter Crone. And he has a podcast on this and where he mentions this. And it was beautiful. It was life changing to me, and it gave me the way to communicate this and to also share it with anybody and everybody because I think it can save lives. Period.
Kellen, you mentioned a lot of work with mentors and you've had a lot of people, it's obvious, that had helped with this rebirth, if you will, or shedding the old into the new. Did you reach out to these mentors, these individuals, or did they reach out to you?
So it's kind of a funny story. My one of my primary main mentors and good friends, David Bear, we knew each other 20 plus years ago when he was just getting into this space. And we had lost touch. I had moved from the city that we both lived in, and things happened. I got a new number. At one point, we were connected on social media, and I think I deleted my Facebook account during COVID because I was tired of all the craziness that was going on, and I lost complete touch with them. And then during this this place where I was rock bottom, I thought to myself, "What's David up to? I need to see what he's doing." I looked him up on Facebook, connected with him, saw all of the stuff that he was producing, and one week long program in particular called Mind Hack. I did the Mind Hack program, and it changed my life instantly. So going from having ideation, suicidal ideation, rock bottom. And Craig, I went through a phase where I felt invisible. Talk about not having identity. I was trying to recreate who I was. And this was after being let go from my medical device job. So now I have no job. I don't know if this industry is if I have a place in it anymore. I'm single, a dad to at that time a 1-year old and a 4-year old. And I remember going weeks at a time without having a conversation with anybody. The only people that I would talk to were the cashier at Publix and my kids, and an occasional conversation with my parents. And that's not on them. I felt so isolated. I wasn't reaching out to friends, to family, and I felt invisible. I remember going on a walk on the beach here in St. Augustine, and literally, there were people all around and there was just no connection. I felt like people couldn't see me. And after diving into this work and learning some of the main distinctions around the power of decision and around what we call the two states of being, sort of two of the main meta distinctions in the methodology, my life changed. And in a matter of days, I went from being invisible to feeling magnetic, and to people stopping me on the street, stopping me on the beach, asking me for things, asking me what I do, asking me what I'm up to, any recommendations for restaurants to go to. Hey, do you want to come here? And it was night and day. And I knew
Hmm.
right then and there, it was like, this is what I want to do. I want to share this with people who are at rock bottom. I want to share this with people who are just struggling. And I also want to share this with people who are joyful and have an amazing life and are crushing it, but want to take things to the next level or feel like there's something more for themselves in their lives. And so that was the change. That's what that started it all.
That's powerful and beautiful at the same time. And listening to you have had to go through. I figured, and for audience, two things. One, Publix for you non-Floridians is a supermarket, grocery store. So make sure that everyone's aware
Yes.
of that. Two is this. These are things. So Kellen and I have never spoken about this piece before, and I want to thank him for being so vulnerable on this podcast. It actually speaks volumes to the type of work you do. And I think it's also important for being in the leadership position that you are in with people that are going through struggles right now and in vulnerable places to know that you literally were able to pull yourself out of the darkness in that way and had those feelings, had those thoughts. It is the word powerful isn't strong enough of the effect that it can have. People need to people need to know that the people giving them guidance have also gone through things. It's one of the reasons why when I'm trying to lead individuals in the sales world, one of the promises I make to them, regardless of how far separated they believe I currently am from carrying a bag and doing their job, the promise I make to everyone on my team is that I'm never going to ask you to do anything that I either haven't already done or be willing to do today. And I'm never going to ask you to do something that is going to be considered a waste of time just to check boxes, because everyone's time is too valuable and no one's got time for any of that stuff. But the point I'm trying to make here is that I've been fortunate because I have gone through these struggles as well on the field. I've had the conversations with the doctors. I've been thrown out of hospitals. I've had administrators hate me. I've had nurses not like me. And so you have to understand how that feels, what that's like in order to know how to deal with these situations and be able to offer anything of any real pertinence. And so, dude, I'm sorry you had to deal with that. I've got goosebumps just listening to you talk about that. I feel for those 3 months, I think you said that you felt like you were invisible and had those suicidal thoughts. I think having experienced that, it's almost it's almost like when you have a near-death experience, helping you to really understand the beauty in the colors of the world that you see and how wonderful everything is around you. You actually touched upon this earlier when you're just talking about the fact that we're flying through space and there's all these beautiful things that just we're involved with. And life, we get caught up in this idea that life is waiting in a Starbucks line and versus really trying to interact and understand all of the wonderful things that are around us and really tap into the essence of life, as cliched and as potentially uninspiring as that may be. I think what I've gotten out of this and speaking to you is you are tapping into all of the wonderful aspects of life and helping people to get back to the roots of themselves and happiness and being able to truly find a comfort and an identity in that.
Absolutely. And it can feel cliche. It can feel like potentially like they're things that we've heard before. Be present, be grateful. And I just ask, how's that working out for folks? And so there's another layer to that. And that is these really practical, really simple steps to what we now know is rewiring, re-sculpting the brain. And so it's fascinating coming from a neuroscience, a neurosurgical background. This was always really fascinating to me. I don't know if you're familiar with Joe Dispenza. There's another gentleman who passed away recently. I think it's James Doty.
Mhm.
and I've read a couple of his books. Through imaging and the technology that we have now, it's incredible. We can actually see this is no longer woo woo. This is no longer cliche. We are capable of growing, healing, reshaping our brains. We see gray matter where there was no gray matter. We see new connections and new circuitry where there wasn't any before. And so all of these learned programming things you hear me say around programming and things that we learned when we were a young kid, a parent telling us something, some experience that we had and we made it mean a certain thing. Those all created a certain circuitry in the brain. And a lot of times those things are limiting us and how we perceive the world, how it shows up in the world to us. And I think you mentioned something that caught my ear around all the things that we have to do. And there's a really cool distinction around this work. And so this isn't reshaping or recreating a new what to do in the world. This is recreating how we be about. This is how we see the world and what shows up for ourselves about us and about the world. It's not the to-dos, it's the about. And if you do this, and we call this the decision matrix, it's one of the primary tools that we use. Identify a limiting belief, create a new empowered decision in that place, and then stack evidence for your new empowered decision. You do this day in, day out. This is some part of my morning ritual. Anything that comes up that is a limiting belief, I create an empowered decision and I stack evidence for that empowered decision. And you're literally rewiring and neurosculpting your brain while you do that.
Let me ask you a question. In this work, are you trying to make people more effective at their jobs? Are you trying to make them become better salespeople? Are you able to help with that?
Absolutely. So it brings up one of our other main distinctions, which is the two states of being. And great question. I will argue that the way that we are more effective, the way that we show up better, the way that we grow revenue, grow sales, the way that we show up better to our partners and to our family and to our kids is all accessible through being in a powerful state. So one that's joyous, excitement, resourcefulness, creativity. And the other state of being is a primal state. So frustration, anger, non resourcefulness, sadness, anxiety, you name it. And so the name of the game is to be in a powerful state. And you may say
Yeah.
that sounds pretty straightforward. That sounds pretty easy. But really we've got to understand that any type of suffering that we put ourselves in is separate than the experience. And the only cause of suffering is our own thinking. And so when we're having limiting beliefs and we've made up decisions about our life that limit us or make us angry at the world or make us think that we're not good enough, we're not worthy, we're not loved. When we have these decisions in our lives, those are creating a primal state for us.
Mhm.
And so we lack resourcefulness. If we can and if we can put empowered decisions in place of those consistently every day and stack the evidence around those, we're going to be more connected, we're going to be happier, we're going to be more efficient.
Do you think you're ever going to have the decision with someone and just let them know that you can help them in their journey, but may not be the best career for them?
Do I think that I will have to tell them that? Or
Like if you're so I asked the other question about trying to make someone better at their job. Do you think you'll ever have to come to the determination that someone this may not be right for them?
they'll have to come up with that determination on their own.
And when they, and
Yeah,
if and when they
yeah,
do,
yeah.
how do you handle that?
Yeah, I'd say about 80% of my approach, of our approach is mindset. 20% is strategy or the business side of it. Really, mindset makes up the majority of that. One of the distinctions of our coaching methodology is that we're not here to problem solve. We're not here to find to your problems right away. We're here to facilitate and discover and lead the client to finding their own understanding, their own clarity, their own confidence, their own new decisions about themselves and about the world. And so that will be entirely up to them to know if that's true or not. What I
Yeah.
can tell you is when you get all of when you're operating from from a powerful state, you get clarity, you get confidence. Things start to become really clear on what is in alignment, what for you, for you in your life, and yeah, it's possible. I would be encouraging for whatever they decide and whatever
Hmm.
they think is best for them. Yeah,
Well, how'd we do?
I think we did good.
Yeah, we're over the hour.
We are. We are.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much to talk about, and this is fun
I was
having.
hoping I was hoping you'd say that. Kellen, this conversation has been extraordinary. Obviously, you are a deep thinker. You have a lot going on, and I want anyone listening, how do people find you right now?
Yeah, so they can find me at kellanlehman.com. It's CellanLehman.com. And on there's opportunities to schedule a 30-minute discovery call with me. There's a few opportunities, downloads that folks can get, and ways to connect with me, a new downloads and ways to get into the community and stay in touch with me. And always open to connecting and having conversations. But they can schedule with me right there on my website.
I love it. Kellen, you're an inspiring dude, and I look forward to many conversations with you. I'm going to go ahead and close this the way I close every single episode and remind everyone that this life is what you make of it. The future you is waiting to meet the current you. Continue to keep the promises you make to yourself and fight like hell to bring your tomorrow into today. Until we meet again, eyes wide, see everything. Goodbye.
Thank you.